Hey, beautiful people, and welcome back to another weekly Daily Wednesdays where we sit back, relax, take that midweek break, talk about some of the fun things going on in the world of Linux and open source. I'm Vince Stone. That is Jill Bryant. Everybody watching us live, we're talking about all kind of fun things in the pre-show. If you get a chance, come swing by. We record live 3 p.m. Eastern Time here on Twitch. Link in the description, or probably somewhere around wherever you're watching this. Fun show for everybody today. But you might notice if you're watching the video version, did you know we had a video version? Yeah. We've been playing around with raising and lowering Jill. When Jill got back a little bit, she got tall.
Yeah.
And when you're up close, you went down. What's going on with the camera situation over there, Jill?
Oh, well, it's actually really exciting news. And I will, of course, get it dialed in, hopefully in the next few weeks. My camera is actually a bit zoomed in and needs adjustment because I am still playing with it since I got two 49-inch 5K quantum dot ultra-wide monitors stacked on top of each other. It's my epic Christmas gift from my Steve husband. Now, originally I had a nice 43-inch monitor. In fact, me and Ven have that same monitor in front of me, and then two 30-inch monitors in portrait on the side. And that is actually lower than two 49-inch ultra-wide monitors stacked. So my tripod right now that is behind the monitors doesn't go up any higher. So I'm going to have a different mount situation in the next week or so. And my husband's going to be helping me with that.
Steve, you got to do what I did. Put the camera on the opposite side of the room. So anytime you need to make a change, you got to get up and walk to the other side of the room.
There you go. Yeah.
Yeah, we were talking about that in the pre-show, because I had like a really tight lens. I wasn't paying attention one time on eBay, and I just ordered a lens because you can get just lenses dirt cheap, and I'm like, oh, try that out. And I thought it was an APS-C format for digital, and it was like an old school, so the crop factor was even tighter. And I put it on the camera on the DSLR I have here in the studio, and it was like, whoa. I'm like,
I remember, Vin.
I played around with it because I didn't want to toss it out. I'm like, well, that's good. I paid $1 for it. I'm like, whatever. So exciting things. Got some good news last night. I'll tell you about that in just a minute. But up first is I get to do a little bit of a victory lap. Always into the gaming because, hey, Linux Gamecast, been doing that. And I've got that Orange Pi 5 Plus that they sent me because I wanted to play around with Rockchip 3588, and I needed that chip to bench against another thing. And Orange Pi is like, here, we'll just send you one and play around with it. And I got on this weird mission. I'm like, can I get Vulkan Quake up and running? And it's a stack of things you got to get going. And we'll be talking about Kernel 6.13 here in a minute. And that was one of the things that helped me out. And I finally got Vulkan Quake running on Vulkan on the Rockchip, which is, it's about the same. It's a little bit faster than the Orange Pi 5. Not Orange Pi 5, but the Raspberry Pi 5 in the benchmarks. And I was like, cool, got that working. Nice. What else can I get up to? What about emulation? Because I know eventually I'll probably, with a lot of this stuff, documentation's everywhere. It's bad. I've talked about it on this show multiple times. That's one of the big reasons Raspberry Pi has had such success. You get a Raspberry Pi, you figure out how to get up and running, and you're good to go. And that's been bugging me about this. So I've been making a little guide, and maybe a month from now I will show you. But something I got up and running is Dolphin. Dolphin.
Oh, yes. Yeah, Dolphin's awesome. I love that emulator.
Yeah, for the Nintendo Wii and Wii U, GameCube, and all that. And yeah, I got it running with Vulkan, HLE. Of
Wonderful.
Course. And not just the title screen. Nope. I got it in-game doing 60 FPS. And of course, we are playing SS Tricky.
Oh, yes. That's a fun game. Yeah.
Because it is hard to rock a rhyme. Yeah. So that took some doing, but it's working, and it might not work tomorrow. It might not work today, depending if I do, because this is bleeding edge Mesa that I'm running on it right now to get all those bits together. And interesting piece of kit, but nowhere near as interesting is what's headed my way in the mail right now. I got a shipping notification last night that the 12-core ARM v9 motherboard development kit is heading my way, and it should be here on Friday.
Woohoo!
This is going to be the one that I can show you, which is even better because I hate having stuff that I can't show you. And this is supposedly going to be close enough to pre-production stuff that I will have some things just like to immediately show everybody. And I saw what you were earlier. It's like, it's been a while since you built a PC. Well, this is a mini ITX ARM motherboard. So there might be a little bit of a build stream at some, it's not going to be Friday night, but maybe I can sneak that in. That's something I'm going to be doing for interfacing Linux. And I'll have a, see, here's what I was scared about, because they're about to go on holiday in Hong Kong for
Chinese New Year, yeah.
And I was like, oh, am I going to get it? And I got the shipping notification. I'm like, yes. So I'll have it for a couple of weeks before you'll be able to order one. So, and Rosdo was like, just once you have that hardware, do whatever you want with it. You're cool. And I'm like, all right. So stay tuned for that. Really excited about that. Really excited for desktop stuff, but also the gaming edge. And it's got a full by 16 slot on it to just plug all kind of things into. So we're definitely going to be getting up to something. We're going to start right here at the top with something no one's going to argue about. I promise you. No one. Everybody's going to like 100% completely agree. What is that? Well, since I've been playing around with the Orange Pi and I've been playing around with some other stuff that's coming down the pipe, I've been putting together a lot of Linux machines. Installing from, when's the last time you set up Linux from scratch? Jill, like just had a clean machine. You're like, okay, I need to put Linux on it.
Oh, a couple months ago for a friend.
Months ago? All right.
Yeah.
And I've been doing that 3 or 4 times a week for the past couple of weeks. I'm like, okay, I got to start over. Let's just put this. So this just caught my eye. 10 Linux apps I install on every new machine, and why you should do. Because I've really been thinking about this. I've really been thinking about this. And hey, man, I'm not one for top 10 listicles, but this kind of hit home over the last couple of weeks because I'm like, what are the apps that I'm constantly installing? And it made me go back and like take a look and really think about it. This Jack from ZDNet, he brings up, he's like, hey, man, most distributions, they already come prepackaged. They get everything that you think you need, but there's always some stuff that you want to add to make it feel like home. So immediately what I did is went through this and started judging picks. Because number one is LibreOffice. First thing I get rid of. I do a sudo apt purge LibreOffice because I just don't use LibreOffice. I don't dislike it. I just don't use it. And it's a lot of packages. Yeah. That's fine. Number 2, Jill, we can both agree on this. VLC. Oh, that's got to be on there.
VLC is classic. Yes.
100%. How about number 3? GIMP? GIMP's usually pre-installed, right?
It is, but I always install it if it isn't pre-installed, obviously, because we need that for altering our pictures and photos and whatnot. Yeah. And number 4, I'm not familiar with Simple Note, which is a note-taking app. Yes, I actually do like Simple Note. Okay. It isn't my main note-taking app, but I do like Simple Note. That is a good one. This is where I feel old school. My note-taking app is just called Show on the desktop, and here on the studio, it's just a text file. Yeah, I mean, I still use Vim for doing notes and text editors. So, and number 5 is GNOME Tweak. So if you're running GNOME, I guess maybe that's something you want. Yeah. Thunderbird, yes. Classic. I've switched to Evolution, but Thunderbird's a good alternative. Either way, desktop email, those are really your only 2 choices. Bitwarden, Password Manager. Okay. All right. And I rock that one too. Timeshift, which, yes, I don't use Timeshift. I use, what is the pack-in Deja Dupe? Yeah, Deja Dupe is the one I mostly use too. And not because I think it's better than Timeshift. It's just already on the machine with a Debian install. And then we have Flatpak or Snap, which, well, we all know how I feel about containerization on the desktop. How about you, Jill? Do you, that's
I think pre-installed on like most things. It's not on Debian. I know a lot of Ubuntu-based distributions are going to have at least Snap.
Yeah. Well, like Pop! OS has Flatpak, and I do use Pop! OS a lot, which is nice that that's already pre-installed. But I almost always do install Flatpak only because I use it for testing apps and whatnot.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
They have their uses.
They have their uses, definitely.
They do. And
app images, like, for instance, the Kden Live, whenever there's a new version of Kden Live, we test it on the app image to talk about here on the show. So
that's a way to do it. I mean, they have their purpose, and not everything has to be all or nothing. Okay, remember that. And Stacer, real-time information. I don't even know. I've never even heard of that.
Yeah, there's a couple others that I've used, but HTOP and BashTop.
What are the ones that you like? What would be like your top 5 applications that you install?
Oh, top 5. Well, mine is honestly, because mostly the machines I'm building are for my own, podcasting and my work. I do podcasting and playing games. So the first one, and this is one that I learned from Ven way back when I started LWDW, is GUV View for previewing and adjusting settings on my camera. And Pavucontrol is a must-have, or pulse audio volume control for choosing sound devices and adjusting input volume of my mic and headphones. And I install all these podcasting apps and gaming apps on a machine, even if I'm not using it for podcasting, because I have a couple I use for backups just in case. And but the machine I just set up for my friend, I didn't install these apps because she isn't a podcaster and didn't need it. But for me, these are the picks that I use for my personal setup, and it's different for everyone.
Yeah, mine's kind of all over the place. Now, the thing with like Pavucontrol is like that for me is a must when I'm helping people out when they're troubleshooting their audio, because GNOME, Cinnamon, KDE, everybody wants to do their own thing inside their own version of like what they perceive a control panel should do.
So true.
And like you get Pavucontrol, we can just all talk the same language, and it's going to affect the same things. It's just a different front end.
Yeah, exactly.
Shout out to whatever KDE is using for screenshots, because those screenshots I showed you earlier were from KDE running on Wayland. By the way, that was on Wayland with the Dolphin emulator, which was another layer of like Ninja stuff. OBS is a typical thing that I have installed. FFmpeg, I make sure that's running up to date. Of course, GIMP. Inkscape, those are like the ones that I install like twice a year. It's like Inkscape and Blender. Those might get tossed in. And probably the number one application that I use most, especially in here in the studio, is DaVinci Resolve. There is that. Discord. For the show, I will have the Discord Electron app open, but I will run most, anything that's an Electron app, I typically am just going to run in a tab.
Right, web-based. Yeah.
Browser, Firefox is usually there, and kind of like you, I'm going to install Chrome, Chromium, whatever, just Vivaldi, have everything up and running. Audacious, Reaper, I got to have those installed. How about Steam? Where's Steam on this list?
Yeah, I put Steam on my list.
Yeah.
Steam and Lutris.
Gotta have your games.
I gotta have Lutris so I can play my Genshin Impact.
And what else? I think that about Evolution, but it's just another mail client, boring things. And also shout out to KDE. I've been playing around with basically with like the Wayland stuff I'm playing around with right now. I can choose between GNOME and KDE. And I've like went back to KDE. I dislike it less. So shout out to all the work that's been done over with the KDE team. I'm sure I'm missing something, but let me know in the comments. I'm sure everybody like try to stick to like your top 5 where we don't like big ones, because I'm sure you got some crazy ones that are slipping my mind. I'm like, oh yeah, now if we're gonna go, I saw Like GameScope's a good one. I saw Strider bring that up in chat. Git. If we're gonna go with like the command CLI tools, like that's a whole. I think it's separate list.
We should do that as a separate list in the future.
That's easy to pull up. I forget. Have to look up the command that shows you like your top commands. Mine, is usually git, make, along those lines. But top, htop.
Yeah, top
there you
is
go.
a lot.
Htop,
bash top. Yeah, I said bash top because that is one I use a lot.
I use btop when I want to confuse people. I'll open that up and then go, what is that spaceship? Like it's just a bunch of flashy nonsense you can get, but yeah, it looks cool, doesn't it?
Yeah, and of course, fast fetch. We all have to have that.
It's interesting. I know everybody's got their like own refined list, and I just again not really big into listicle type things, but that hit me, and it really made me think because for the past 2 weeks I'm like, what do I need? What do I need for like the bare minimum system just to get up and running so I can get the things done? And you know what? I'm happy to say, with between Ubuntu and Debian and Armbian, out of the box experiences on most, I'm going to say just about all Linux distributions, like you pretty much have everything you need to at least get going, right?
Yeah.
There's no like showstoppers. I think there's more like inconvenience-ers. There we go. We'll use that. We're just going to pretend that's a word, everybody.
There we go.
Let's go ahead and pop over to a release so big it has inspired Linus to make guitar pedals.
Yes, it sure has. So Linus Torvalds released Linux kernel 6.13 on Sunday, and there are some big enhancements for hardware enablement and new features in this latest stable kernel release. The new kernel adds bare bones support for the A7 through to the A11 chipsets used in older iPhones and iPads. So now you can at least, boot the Linux kernel on these devices. And I am actually really looking forward to putting my older iPads to good use with Linux. I'm looking forward to this. And that'll be cool when Linux is running beautifully on those devices. And Linux kernel 6.13 also adds support for the latest NVMe 2.1 specification. There is also greater support for audio devices on Linux, which is always a wonderful thing.
Good to see. Love to see it. A couple other things thrown into this too. Like, if you just are a baller and you happen to have like the Epic 9005 CPUs laying around, because like that's how I build workstations. The P-State support's in there. And the 0 RPM feature if you got a Radeon 7000 GPU.
Nice.
Which is good, because like if it's not hot, it shouldn't be spinning. Let's not make fan go burr.
Exactly.
Love to see that. This is all from omgubuntu.co.uk. There'll be a link in the show notes if you want to read through everything. And something that I'm excited, it's a very ARM heavy show this week, because that's just what my life has been for the past month. It's just getting up to speed with ARM stuff. Is they've been doing a lot of work for Collabora's been working for whatever reason, I assume it's spite, to make the 3588 chip that's in that orange pipe, upstreaming all the stuff needed to where it can just boot, where you don't need to do anything. And one of the big things they added was the HDMI ITX controller support, because that chip has got support for that board I have. It has HDMI in on it, and that's going to be fascinating. And all the GPU bits for the Mali GPU in there, which is quite a powerful little GPU on that SoC, and
really awesome
coming together. I'm just like waiting on it. I love to see stuff like that, because again, outside of the Raspberry Pi ecosystem, getting this stuff plugged in and just working can be a nightmare. So I love to see it. Great. I'm waiting on 6.14, more stuff, great stuff.
Yes.
And happy to see it now.
Yes.
Let's think about a couple of applications like Audacity, OBS, Handbrake, VLC. These programs all have something in common, that they all have a chat with the libav codec, which, that's the little bit that exposes FFmpeg bits. You know FFmpeg, right? Jill does. I do. A lot of you at home, you're
been
like,
using it for years.
Basically, anytime you're messing around with audio and video on Linux, there's a good chance FFmpeg's kind of hanging out somewhere in the mix.
Yeah, it's the back end of most multimedia apps on Linux.
And like a lot of you, I assume, maybe some people are like, I would never sully my hands typing in a command line. But, I use it on the command line. I use it to convert videos to different formats, change containers, and export audio, just regular stuff that I'd do in here. But looking up those commands, I'm not going to pretend I got everything memorized. Like basic stuff, if I need to, take copy, extract it without converting it, like basic stuff like that. But as soon as we get out of that, I'm like, okay, let me go to Google, search it, find what I need to do. Then I ran across this, which this by itself isn't terribly impressive, but I love the idea behind it. I love the idea behind it. Yeah. This is FFmpeg. And I wanted to give it a mention because Jacob is doing something useful. And I love it when I see something that I'm like, this is a good idea. Maybe not just for this. What he did is he hacked up just a little shell script that allows you to ask FFmpeg how to do something using natural language and get a result of what the command line would be. Which I'm like, okay, you know what? That's actual use. I don't need, it's not putting a mustache on my picture. It's not changing my background. It's not giving me bad suggestions in search. I'm like, I like that. Now the downside is, which I firmly believe this is a downside, is it requires hooking up an OpenAI API key. And this isn't really about that. This is what got me thinking about this. This is about identifying something useful that could be adapted to run locally on your machine right now, and definitely something that I'd like to see become commonplace. Maybe in a few years, we're seeing AMD releasing it. Everything's got tops on it now, right? It's like, what are our tops and AI, all the things. And would you like a smart terminal? That's really what I'm asking everybody at home. So this, you could be like, okay, hey, FFmpeg, how you doing? How was your weekend? And FFmpeg's like, it was a pretty good weekend, Vin. It was great. I'm like, hey, could you do me a favor, FFmpeg, and convert this? And like, how would I go about doing that? Instead of like opening up ChatGPT or whatever and leveraging these LLMs to do something that would save you actual time, right?
Yeah. It's
now,
good for that.
We're going to be able to run these things easier locally in the future. That's just going to happen. And
that's what we need to be local and private too. So it's not going to the cloud.
Yeah, exactly. And, I like the idea of just this concept of, especially for an intermediate user or just that time saver of like, how do I do this? And it's like, oh yeah, this is how you do this. That natural language communication from the command line, which was a fantasy thing. That was like one of the, did you ever see a show called Halt and Catch Fire?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that was like one of their fantasy things they were going to release on their first PC. That first series of that's really good. It's like the early days of like making personal computers and like getting sued by IBM and all that. Completely fictional, but they tried to like hit some of the beats. But that was like one of the things in their first computer was like a subsystem that would allow people to type in naturally and get a response. Right. And that reminded me of this. So maybe not necessarily about FFmpeg, but having that ability is something that I think would save me time, or like I'm just thinking of like every time I need to copy a bunch of files or something, I was like, okay, I need to make a list, take all these, how do I remove all the spaces from all the files in this directory, make them all lowercase, but only copy the ones that start with the letter 13 to this directory. How do I do that? And like, give me a good answer.
Yeah. I think it would be fabulous for doing batch jobs like that. And also, I love that you can just tell the LMPeg to, extract audio from these video files. It's that easy. You don't have to put in the traditional commands, which I know and I use and I love, but it's nice to have another way to do it that's, written in natural human language. Just like you were saying, Ben, I think this was incredible. When you put this in the show notes, I was like, oh, here's a really good use of AI.
The reality is like, it's here. It's going to get integrated and everything. And I'm sick of AI, all the things, but I definitely got to at least take a look and be like, how can it benefit me? And
yeah,
this is something I'd like to see integrated. Again, I'm not a big fan of like tying into OpenAPI, ChatGPT, and all the other fun stuff. I'm outside of my wheelhouse, not terribly interested in that, but once it's more convenient. So I like something like this because I feel like I'm getting a little peek into the future. And yeah, there you go. There'll be a link in the show notes. And FFmpeg is such a great example because you should see some of the small paragraphs I have saved.
Yeah, long ones.
They're silly. They're silly. And there was a time where I was spent a lot more time in FFmpeg, but then again, sometimes it might just be better to open up Handbrake and play around with it.
You remember, Ben, in the early days of LGC when we were doing virtual cams?
Oh, yeah. We're just like, there's a very good thing of like, how far could I go? Like if I said, okay, I need you to create a virtual loopback device, tie it into GStream or capture this. And like, if it gets to the point where it could do that. And again, the focus isn't so much just on FFmpeg, but I want people to like start thinking about that naturally being that gets me a little bit more excited than, what is a Bard? It used to be Bard. I don't even know what they call it now. I call it Gimli. Google's whatever AI.
Gemini?
Yeah. Like poorly answering questions. I open that every now and then and I'm like, hey, are you useful yet? And it just starts screeching at me and I close the tab and I'm like, I guess not. Okay. Or the image FX and whatever, man. But yeah, I love to see a good use. Now, the last thing we're going to talk about this evening is ARM from Nvidia because, they did the Project Digit announcement at CES. Remember when Jetson got up there with a sparkly jacket on?
Yeah. And he showed off the sparkly digit computer.
Yeah.
It was sparkly too. So an all Nvidia ARM laptop system on chip is actually in the works and may be coming out very soon. This is really huge news and could be the next big competitor to Apple's M series chips. So it's in collaboration with MediaTek. The SoC is actually going to be based on the new GB10 processor used in the Project Digits Mini AI supercomputer that was shown off at CES 2025 by Nvidia CEO Jetson during his keynote. And the Project Digits mini computer runs the Linux-based Nvidia DGX OS, which is wonderful. Also, the Nvidia GB10 Grace Blackwell superchip includes a Blackwell GPU and a Grace CPU with 20 ARM cores. And Nvidia plans to make this chip a mainstream product for all PC manufacturers. And it actually is possible that the announcement of the GB10 could happen as soon as
I still think this thing looks like a suitcase.
Yeah, doesn't it? Yeah,
it looks like some luggage.
It does.
All right, like if that was the beginning of a Mission Impossible movie, I'd be like, all right, sure. I don't know, man. I don't know. Project Digits, if you haven't heard about it, which, again, it's even outside we're AIing all the things, right?
Yeah.
Pretty neat bit of hardware when you think about it. Because, DGX OS, which is Ubuntu, it's an older Ubuntu 2204, and it's going to be running like a 5X kernel. But here's the interesting thing. It's $3,000 for this bit of luggage, okay?
Yeah.
So you're going to drop about $3,000 for this.
Yes.
But it delivers a petaflop of compute performance.
Yeah.
Which, let me tell you why that's a big deal for anybody. Team green, team red, team blue, whatever you want, however you want to rock and roll with that, why this is a big deal. First, that's $3,000 way cheaper than any Mac, these M series with 128 gigs of RAM.
Yeah.
Point blank. It's not even that. But let's roll it back a little bit. when we talk about 1 petaflop of compute, the first time we saw that was the IBM Roadrunner. That was the first supercomputer to hit 1 petaflop all the way back in the dark ages of 2008. Which doesn't seem like that. Don't do the math. It was like 3 weeks ago. At a cost of $100 million was the estimated cost to build that machine. We have got some progress, man.
Absolutely.
We've got some progress. So
in
that's
the palm of your hand.
Right. Even if you're looking at this and I'm like, man, I don't care about this thing really. I don't, but I'm like, okay, that's impressive. So if we think about it as what Jensen, the CEO of Nvidia, is like, we want to make this a consumer device or like, dial it down to, and, they're extrapolating a lot over there at PC World. Like, well, it could possibly show up in a laptop. And I'm like, yeah, it could show up in your shoes too. But, laptops are very likely, a tablet possibly, and or, a workstation in front of people, because Nvidia tried to buy ARM. Like, Nvidia's got plans, man. They're up to something. And, but, I want to weigh this out with Nvidia's kind of like consumer, not even kind of, like, especially with their pricing. Nvidia's very consumer, like me, you, Jill, and everybody at home, very hostile. That's just like leaving out, closed source drivers and ecosystems. Like, the pricing on this stuff is just astronomical compared to what it was, just 5 or 6 years ago. And they're just like, deal with it. Like, okay. And here's another thing that you need to worry about is like the Jetson Nanos. You remember these guys? Yeah. Nvidia doesn't.
Developer kits.
Yeah, they dropped support for them after about a year. They're like, yeah, thanks for buying one. So a lot of people haven't forgot about these guys, where Nvidia's like, isn't this really cool? You should invest in this. And like, okay, we're done with it. So keep that in mind. Keep that in mind before you go, spending $3,000 on your Nvidia laptop. So I would be a little worried about, we got, maybe it's going to be like options, then again, because the thing we'll be showing off very soon is that dev kit. Like, that thing's faster than an M1, which is going in the right direction, but it has PCI Express expandability. That wouldn't worry me so much. Like, I don't think I would want to buy, I like desktops too. I guess most people just don't care though. Like, I don't, if AMD had an SoC, AMD was like, we're going to make one too. It's going to be a RISC-V. And then NVIDIA's like, we're doing ARM. Maybe we could have that battle in Intel's. I don't know what Intel's going to do. But I would still want some type of expandability, because I feel like you're already going to have the memory soldered on, right?
Yeah.
Like, what do you don't upgrade? Like, this is going to be a very weird motherboard for me to play around with, because there's really nothing to do, Like, what do you think? You get a motherboard and you're like, okay, I'm going to put some RAM in it, put some NVMe drives, and hook everything. It was just like, put 4 screws in it, give it some power. It's weird, man. It's weird.
I think one of the reasons they're probably, obviously going to the laptop market, because those are the most sold computers, are laptops. So that kind of makes sense. But I'm hoping, like you, Vin, that they make the ones for the PCs, the mini PCs and regular PCs will be, you'll be able to add more RAM and
hopefully
maybe even more RAM to the GPU. You remember that used to be a thing, and maybe Nvidia could enable that in these machines.
Not unless they can find a way to charge a 3x for it, dude. I think one of the like dark things I'm going to enjoy is this ARM thing, this like cracked out ARM chip I'm getting. I'm going to be able to run Windows 11 on it.
Yes.
I'm not even joking.
Yeah.
That's going to be a fun video. But yeah, maybe.
Oh my.
Anything to get like Linux, more people playing around with it. But yeah, there you go. I just thought that was something worth mentioning. That's something that old Jensen let slip. And he was like, yeah, we're going to. So maybe the next time you go to your local PC store, you go to we don't have fries anymore.
No. We do have Micro Center. We have one here. Yeah, one here in California.
We got
yeah.
They don't. I mean, hey man, Micro Centers are fantastic. They just didn't have that same funk that the Fry's did. The Fry's had personality.
I know. I miss the theming and everything at Fry's. I mean, I've been to everyone in California, and I love the theming on all of them.
But yeah, you see an Nvidia laptop powered by Nvidia from Nvidia, and it's only $9,000.
Yeah.
Yeah. What I'd really like to see before we get out of here is if you've got your hands on one, the latest generation of iPads with a new, those things don't feel real. They're so thin. Mm-hmm. And like that's where I get interested in. It's like, if you get these things small and just start putting in, like, we can have like really chunky, powerful tablets or, convertibles.
Yeah. Perfect.
I don't know. I feel like we're selling our freedom away, man. Like, we're going to get, everything's just going to be a single board. We're turning into Mac users is what I feel like. It's going to happen. Mm-hmm. It's going to happen. We're not going to be able to make fun of the Mac people anymore. We're like, you can't upgrade your RAM anymore. Like, neither can you. And I'm like, fair point.
Fair point. Well, thank goodness for companies that are thinking forward with modularity, like Framework, and thankfully we have them around.
Crazy times, people. All right, that's going to wrap us up for tonight, this evening, this afternoon, this morning, or wherever it may be. If you like the show, there's probably a link down there if you want to come hang out in our Discord and all the other fun places. You can sub to us on YouTube, sub to us on Twitch, sub to us on Patreon, get a link. It syncs up. We're in there the other 6 days of the week through Trackmania. You get live and uncut versions of this show if you want to become one of our patrons, and a commercial free. Had somebody, why don't you post this somewhere else in YouTube? I do. I put it on Patreon. You can watch the video. No ads. You just download it. Higher quality. All that fun stuff. If you can help us out, $1 a week. It'd be awesome. Actually, $10,000 a week. Then I'll give like $6,000 of that to Strider.
There you go. Yay!
There we go. All right. And we got a merch store. All the stuff is over on linuxgamecast.com. Did I mention we got a web zone? Yep. You can go here, get the show notes. There's not ads all over it. Got a podcast. Yeah. Podcast. I feel like I'm talking to like two different audiences, because some people only know the video version. And they're like, wait, what? And then we got the podcast version. People have been listening on audio, and they're like, wait, there's a video version?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
It's like a very bipolar type thing, but I'm the exact same way, because I have some shows that I've been listening to for years that I only listen to the audio version. And I know they got a video version, and vice versa. There's other ones that I only watch on like YouTube, and like, I know they got a podcast, and I'm like, well, that's cool, but I only watch it here. It's weird, man. I wonder like what part of my brain makes those decisions, but I just rock and roll with it.
Oh, and make sure to subscribe to our new LWDW YouTube channel.
Yeah,
youtube.com/LinWDW.
Jill's doing the real work there. Here, let me get to it. I meant to like bring that up last week. And thank you, Jill.
Yeah.
Here we go.
Well, you brought it up at the end of the show last week.
Yeah, but I forgot to spam it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, man.
Oh, yeah. We got to post it on all the things, too. I've been on the socials.
do we even like know how to social media if we're not like blatantly spamming? There we go.
Yeah. There we go.
All right. Oh, thank you for that resub. Optiplex Prime. All right, beautiful people. Have a great rest of your week. Get up to something. And like, seriously, let me know what those top 5 apps are.
Yes, that would be cool.
Why? Because I'm being nosy. That's why.
Then we can read them on the show. That would be fun.
Yeah. All right. Time to bring up some bouncy music.
Yeah, thank our beautiful patrons. Beautiful patrons, including our advisor, Artherin, who is in chat right now, and he's in chat almost like 99.9% of the time. Our executive producers, we got Chicago Kicks People Level, Glorious Egg Roll, Basil, our Sea Monsters, Vera Tenuta, Truggy, Mike, our Death Notes, Zeno, Chad, Turnover, Martin, and our lovely chairlings like Mir PPC in chat. -9.
Oh,
and the list goes on, and I can't read them all.
Don't worry.
That quickly.
Don't worry. Just pop. Now go watch the video. Hit pause right then.
Yeah. Yeah, there you go.
It'll work for you. All right, everybody. Yeah, get out there. Poke something with your Linux sticks. Have some fun. Go learn some stuff.
Yeah.
Have a good time. See you next week. Bye-bye.
Bye, all.